Deshpande, sir, our chairman of ASM Group of Institute and NextGen Innovate. He has joined and he will be giving the welcome and team address today.
Okay.
And Prosenjit sir is ex-CHRO of SRK Group. Sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, we are live.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lokesh.
Okay. Arvind sir has joined, right?
Yes.
Okay. So now I'm starting the session. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. A very warm welcome to our webinar. I'm Lokesh Rajwani, your host, which is brought to you by NextGen Innovate and curated by Digital HR. So today we are here to explore, prioritize people building workplace where health and humanity come first. Okay. Now it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Sandeep Pachpande, Chairman, ASM Group of Institutes, Pune. Dr. Sandeep Pachpande is an academician, entrepreneur, mentor, and visionary leading ASM. He holds a PhD from University of Pune, an MBA from Leeds Metropolitan University, UK, a BE in computer engineering, and completed senior executive leadership programs at Harvard's Business School. Under his guidance, ASM fused global educational standards with industry exposure. He is a sought after keynote speaker, PhD guide, investor in tech, real estate, and author of several books. I request Dr. Sandeep Pachpande sir to give welcome address.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon to everyone. And on behalf of ASM Group of Institutes and NextGen Innovate, it's absolutely my privilege to welcome you all to today's important conversation on a topic which is absolutely the need of the hour, the well-being imperative, building healthier, human-centered workplaces. I thank the hosts, NextGen Innovate, and our curators, Digital HR, for bringing us together. A special welcome to all the distinguished panelists and the participants, Mr. Prithvi Bose, Dr. Pradyumna Pandey, Mr. Prasenjit Mukherjee, and Mr. Arvind Warrior. It's great to have the perfect people for this. So as we begin this session, I wanted to begin with a little bit of a reality check. According to WHO, depression, anxiety costs the global economy over 1 trillion annually lost in productivity. And every dollar invested in employee well-being and mental health gives a 4-fold return in improved health and productivity. Hence, this is not just an HR metric, it is a business strategy. You know, when I talk of our success of our employees or our students, we say that this success has no meaning until they have spiritual, mental, and physical well-being. And leading companies are taking efforts here. Another survey by Gallup, it suggests that the companies who care about the well-being, their 69% people are less likely to look out for jobs. And there is a 71% less likelihood of experiencing a lower burnout. I think Unilever has a well-being for all initiative. Microsoft have rolled out the right to disconnect. DHL Express, by embedding well-being at its cultural core, continues to be recognized as a top employer worldwide. So these examples show us clearly one thing, that well-being is not a perk. It is a strategic imperative for competitiveness in the age of AI and constant change. In fact, McKinsey projects that the workplaces with strong well-being practices could enjoy 20 to 30% higher innovation outputs by 2030. At ASM and NextGen, we prepare our students and our employees not only to succeed in their careers, but also to build organizations where success and well-beings coexist. To me, this is the leadership responsibility of our generation. In fact, we are writing a case study on how Dassault Systems is using inner engineering as one of the methods for employee well-being. As we begin this session, I would invite you to reflect on three main imperatives. Make empathy a policy, not a personal quality. Use technology for inclusion and balance, and not just efficacy. And embed well-being into everyday decisions, not just annual HR calendars. With that, once again, I welcome you all. I look forward to the insights from our panel and to the practical ideas that we can take back to create a healthier, human-centric workplace. Once again, welcome to this webinar.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandeep sir. Okay, so now let's move to our panel discussion. The well-being imperative, building healthier human-centered workplace. So now I'd like to introduce our esteemed speakers. So our first speaker, Dr. Pradyumna Pandey, CEO, Promedixel Learning Pvt Limited. With over 30 years in HR leadership, Sir has served major Indian and multinational firms like Hero MotoCorp, Mother Dairy, ACC, JK Tyres, and Torrent Pharma. He specialized in strategic HR, organizational development, industrial relations, and workforce management. A certified business coach, he has now led Promedixel and chairs ISAB Greater Noida, focusing on well-being and nurturing future leaders. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Now let's move to a second panel speaker, Arvind Warrior, lead people, partner, and culture, Volvo Group. Sir brings 20 years of HR experience across IT, manufacturing, and pharma. He partners with business leaders on HR strategies, talent development, employee engagement, audits, and PCM, PEM models. Also a motivational speaker and advisor to business schools. He is passionate about coaching and continuous learning. We welcome you, sir.
And honored. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now let's move to our panelist, Mr. Prosenjit Mukherjee, ex-CHRO, SRK Consultancy Group. With over 2 decades of experience across IT, healthcare, manufacturing, retail, KPO, BPM. Sir links people strategy with business goals to drive growth and global expansion. He has led governance, succession, and HR transformations. He is active in SHRM, NHRD, and HBR Executive Network, and has been honored with awards like Global Laureate in HR 24-25 and Most Iconic HR Tech Leader 23-24. Welcome you, Prosenjit, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I would like to introduce our moderator, Mr. Prithvesh Bose, MD, Grow Pro Max Talent DC Private Limited, a transformation leader with nearly 30 years experience. Sir has held senior HR and leadership roles at Flipkart, Reliance, Domino's, Hyatt, and the Future Group, and alumnus of XLRI, IIM Ahmedabad, and IHM Kolkata. He is also founded Growth Studio and he also founded Growth Studio Mentoring Community and leads the Star Mentee program under India Skill Bridge. We welcome you, Mr. Prithvesh, sir.
Thank you very much. Delighted to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. There is a quick note to the audience. Please feel free to ask your questions in the chat box. Our experts will be more happy to answer all your questions in the end of the session. Now I request our moderator, Mr. Prithvesh Bose, to take over. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Lokesh.
Thank you.
So, yeah, for the kind words that you've said for all of us, very happy to hear. And yeah, I'm also equally happy. And before I start, I want to really congratulate the organizing team for putting such a topic on well-being. It's such a important topic nowadays. It was always important, but I think it magnified after COVID, especially with everything that we see. uh, so I'm also, extremely the three speakers with experience, and they have done a lot of work, I'm sure, in their area of HR expertise on well-being, and delighted to pick thoughts from them, their expertise, their execution, their thoughts, and perspectives on this topic. So, yeah, I'm looking forward. Before we begin, just wanted to also, set a little context of this call so that we know exactly what we're going to cover. So each one of the speakers will be bringing their own insights on a certain question, which is what we range from the perspective that we are profit, the way we look at profit and output metric. Can we look at well-being as another important aspect? So that is something that that we will be discussing in this call. We will also be talking about what are some of the policy innovations that are there, which can be, which can really augment well-being. We'll talk about that as well. We'll speak about and discuss a little more in terms of the HR practices of how organizations become strong and in focusing the well-being charter for each and every organization. We will, of course, talk about, how upskilling, reskilling, and career mobility can act as a impetus, in helping employee well-being. Also, we will pick up another element in terms of early professionals who I'm sure large part of them have joined this call today also, to get to know, okay, what is their role in handling well-being in the new age of work and the future of work. So that's important. So we'll talk about that. And finally, we will also understand about the culture building element of well-being. So there's a packed up discussion, and I'm really happy that we're going to be talking about this critical element of well-being, which is part of the people-centric. Any people-centric organization will do that. Okay, so with that context setting, I think we'll move on to the first question. But before I go to the first question, I think one other thing that I want to draw all our attention to is nowadays, this well-being charter or the focus on well-being has magnified a lot or amplified a lot because of a lot of reasons. First reason is clearly there are regulators who are now observing data and reports in different countries who feel that, is the company financially stable? Is it also equally stable in terms of well-being? So what's the well-being charter and scorecard look like? So there are organizations who are leadership team and the all the managers, everybody put together are working really hard to ensure that well-being charter is communicated to them. So having said that, my first question is to Pradyumna, if you could take that question. How can organizations, in your mind, shift from traditional profit and output-driven metric to embedding well-being as a core business priority?
Thank you, Prithvish. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me here. I think when we talk about shift from the mindset, I think it's all about. I feel that it's a leadership intent which becomes more important in an organization. Definitely, as an organization, we need to realize that yes, well-being is not just as soft, nice to have add-on. So as an organization, we need to understand that this is something which has a core business purpose for sure, because well-being of employees, when we talk, it's all about how we engage employees at workplace. And that's where we talk about productivity and bringing that innovation and creativity at workplace. If you are not engaged, if you are not, you're mentally you are not focused, I think that as an organization, we miss those innovations and creativity at workplace. So definitely, as leader, as organization, we need to understand that business just don't run on numbers. They run on people. So we need to redefine those success metrics for sure. Beyond revenue, I'm sure that those who are as an entrepreneur, they know that what importance revenue is having in the entire business scenario. But yes, we need to start tracking of like engagement level of employees, what we do normally. But my point is that how we treat that feedback. When we track engagement, what we do with that becomes important. How we are involving employees into that entire process becomes important for me. Now the new terms are coming in when we talk about well-being. People are now tracking burnout, your leads, work-life balance, all those things becoming important, because these all are leading indicators for a long-term purpose. If you talk about long-term performance, these are the leading. If you know that your engagement score are high, your burnouts are low, your work-life balance of employees is going good, I think somewhere that helps you to track your performance. You can be sure that if you are tracking these things, if these are on place, with that mindset, we can move forward. Second becomes important as a leader, whether you are, because that this needs, when we talk about intent, when we talk about creating a culture, they definitely needs role modeling from the top management, the people, those who are leaders. If they show a balance, if they show empathy, I think it's not about only about them. I think it creates a permission for others to do the same. And therefore, I always talk about that, how we coach and mentor our leaders towards this, because we need to train them. We need to train them to identify those signals which are coming out of workplace, that yes, here interventions are required. So those, not only that, your performance metrics now, if you are rewarding collaboration, that brings in that mindset of that, yes, well-being is something which is important. I remember one of my earlier experience, like safety is something which is important at workplace. I am from a manufacturing background. I have worked in cement for around 18 years. A day, the chairman came and he said, let's stop entire productive production for a day and just talk about safety and do whatever is required for safety in the plant. Wherever there are unsafe conditions, let's remove those. And that is the intent which is respected by people. That is the intent which makes that association of employees with you as an organization. If you are able to say that I am losing 20-25 crore for a day's production and I'm just talking about safety, I'm stopping the production. That is the intent. If as an organization, when I remember in my earlier days, when one of my senior came and said, are there two exits in this conference room? I said, no. Then he said, we will not have meeting, because safety is important. I think well-being comes from where you talk about, you display those things to employees. Moreover, I always feel that it's important that as leaders, we openly discuss about those mental health issues at workplace. We talk about, we do efforts for reducing that stigma. There are people, those who will be mentally depressed at workplace, whether they are not well, but whether we are able to recognize them, or we are able to do a conversation around those problems which are in the organization. I think that becomes important. Second is definitely the structural support which we need to give, access to counseling. There are wellness apps now readily available. In fact, I have one of my organization, ProMedExcel is one, but Ekant is one AI-driven platform which we provide to organizations, where we say that let employees come and talk about their problems. Let the leadership team have the dashboard which can see that what is the status of my employees. So those structural support are very much needed. And I think when I review my work on Ekant with some organizations, I can clearly see that employees feel good about when we ask them about their well-being, when we inquire about their status as on date. They feel good about. Initially, there was hesitation. I have seen that employees were not participating on those the login which was given, but later on, when they saw that there is something which is helping them to cope up with the stress at workplace, I think that helps. So one is normalized conversation around mental well-being, well-being of employees. Second, give structural support. Third, your work design be such that as an organization, you can't expect back-to-back meetings. I have seen many organizations, you are running from one meeting to another, having that pressure of delivering those action taken reports. But yes, somewhere we need to talk about that. What is the time where we encourage of talking about realistic workload for people? We don't talk about the realistic workload. We give targets to our employees that this is the target. Sometimes as leaders, we think that if we give a stress targets, something will be achieved. But that mindset that transparency, if you can bring in your system where people know that this is the larger picture and how he can contribute, that becomes important. And I said, you should have to equip your managers to recognize those signs of stress and you need to intervene early. As an organization, I always talk to leaders. I say that, are you comfortable if your best assumption, best way of working is challenged by your team members? I think that starts the initial point of well-being in the organization, because the trust, the respect which employee is asking for becomes the basic point for any organization which says that my employees they are happy. So I think there are many micro practices which are coming now. Several just short rituals. They said that let's go for gratitude round. All those small meetings where you go and check in with employees. These are small actions which definitely need. But yes, as I said, started that leadership intent is important. It is all about changing a mindset. We have moved to that direction. Many organizations are now started working on this in this direction, because they know that this is something which is going to impact the entire productivity. I always say that in organization there are drivers, those who are satisfied and motivated. So that satisfaction part comes from those well-being initiatives which you take. There are critics too, where those who are motivated but not satisfied, and there my efforts goes that let me satisfy them through my action as an organization, where I say yes, I care for you. So this is my initial thought on this question. I think this is what I can. Thank you.
Great points. Great points. Thanks for sharing such profound points. I truly enjoyed that part. Actually, you did cover a lot of points. You did mention that it's not an add-on anymore. It is a core. It is a core work, right? It is a core part of the organization's strategy that came out. You talked about tracking of engagement, and most importantly, what action are we taking after the tracking and metrics are available, data-driven metrics. What are we doing? You talked about role modeling. It's so important that leaders need to role model, be empathetic leadership, demonstrate empathetic leadership, and take that forward. And he also talked about certain structural, policy-driven support that each and every employee needs to go do and have, as well as the performance, the stretch assignment that you talked about. Are we being conscious about what we are doing, and can we put a little bit of a science around it? So I think these are very, very valid and very strong points and profound points. Thank you for pouring in these thoughts. That reminds me, since you spoke about what action are we taking, that's a profound point. In fact, if you look at Gallup report, they mentioned that succeeding becomes important in any policy matter. Structural support can get truly come to fruition if leadership behaves accordingly, and governance is looked at there's a tracking mechanism that we look at, so that it becomes part of the routine. Now the next question is around that. How are we going to make that happen? And therefore the structural part. And Prashanjit, if you could take that question, which is that what structural or policy level innovations have been, have you found really effective in building a genuine human-centered workforce?
Yeah, thanks, Prithvish. So, very simply, if I have to put it, I think there are two angles to it. We definitely need policies. So what I have found out is that organizations have SOPs when they are putting health and well-being at a primary forte on dealing with things. One of the important thing that I found out is that progressive organization, they always empower their managers and employees, right? So rather than binding them into certain policy framework. So there are SOPs which empower managers to go ahead and, kind of connect with that employee. Also empower human capital or HR a lot, right? Rather than putting that HR into an administrative function. Today, the world is changed abruptly. What was there 10, 15 years ago, or even pre-COVID and post-COVID. We say pre-COVID era and post-COVID era. Post-COVID era is a more futuristic. We are running towards 230. We have a lot of visions in India. So I think what has been found that people are very empowered, right? Now, in all this, while we have structures and SOPs, so let's say an organization create a structure and they have SOPs where in their top chart, if they have a pyramid of the policies, top chart, they have, mental well-being, health and effectiveness of employees are always in the top. How, the organization developed themselves, and primarily what I have found out that we all know culture is driven from the top. It's always top who decide on the culture, the management decide on the culture. So currently, a lot of educations are getting flown, and I feel human capital or HR leaders are a lot of role to play to influence, because one of the angle is in HR world, it's you also influence, not just build policies. You influence the stakeholders to take the right decisions, right? I think three things I would like to add on. One is that we need leaders who rightly influence the management to take a decision, right? To which is creating employee well-being. Market researching and benchmarking should be at the top, like you talked about Gallup already. You touched upon that. Third is that empowerment is very much needed, and all this are a part of your SOPs where you can review, recommend, amend changes and make it better. This entire ecosystem, which is how you attract, source, retain, engage people, it's a life cycle. It's created an employable life cycle, which organizations are working. Yes, there are gaps still. I can't be saying that, okay, things are green. There are many gaps. There are organizations who are getting recognized or getting rewards, but it's more of a paper. The actual, when you actually look at it, there are organizations which have 72% attritions, right? And people are leaving. There are layoffs happening. So these are the part that I think we should touch upon. So there is a huge mental effect on employees when those things happens, right? So I think we need to come out from those boardroom practices and actually touch the, the mental health or employee well-being to employees' life, right? And rather than just putting those structures, how do you actually empower the companies or the people in the organizations is very important. What I found out that management of the companies or stakeholders in the organization, the business leaders are putting focus on it. They are talking about it. They are openly sharing it. They are even challenging leaders who are not taking decisions that what is that you are doing to make people happy. That is a progressive part. Okay, I would say. Okay, but I think Delhi abhi bahut dur hai. So there are a lot of things we are doing and a lot of things needs to be done. This is my observation, what I've seen. Yeah.
Great points, great points. I really enjoyed that. I think you hit the nail on three heads. First of all, you mentioned about having the right leadership,
Yes.
right? So if the right leadership is there and the influence, right leadership does right influence, then well-being charter takes a front seat, not a back seat. So that came out really well. Really love that point. He also mentioned about market research and benchmarking, which is essential. Any organization wants to do anything needs to also look at the environment and pick up all of the good things also happening in the environment. So
Yeah.
I think that came out really well. One of the profound point you highlighted, and this I really, like, I missed all the good points, is empowering people. Sometimes if organizations empower, that's what you said, if organizations step forward and empower people, then the rest of it is, people feel belonging, people feel happy that I'm able to connect to and do a job. So that came out well. And the other important aspect, I like the word that you said, which is boardroom to the ground. Very, very important that it cannot be just, left alone in the boardroom. It has to see the light of the day. And you gave an anecdote and example also, which is what I liked again, which is, organizations are winning award, but the attrition is about 70%. So
Yeah.
something has to be done about it. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
contrary.
That's
Good.
a
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Please
that is
go ahead.
that's stuff which is a pain area. So that I think we
Correct.
should talk about it also very open, because not,
Correct. Correct.
if we say everything is green, then who is going to take
Correct.
care of the red, right? So that's something which
Yeah.
is, I thought I'll bring it up. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Such a practical aspect of opening up the channel of conversation there. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Prashanjit.
Thank you.
Okay, so now that and Prashanjit mentioned all of this important aspect, right? Which also brings us to the fact that if a leader has to be an influencing leader, and if people in HR and other leadership and everybody together needs to really build a team who believes in well-being as a charter, then we need to do upskilling, reskilling, career mobility. So my next question actually, in the context, I'll come to that question a little later. Maybe Prashant, I'll come back to you again on this. Let me pick up some thoughts around Arvind, what he feels. Arvind, I'll go to you now, Arvind.
Sure.
So So big time, if I look at the different report of a Mercer psychological report that they have, announced, flexible schedules, continuous growth, all of them has taken, precedence. Hybrid work, AI-driven recruitment and database employee listening is, of course, changed the way we look at things, right? So I think, the aspect that I want to draw from your, conversation and insights are which emerging HR practices are proving most effective in closing the gap in your mind, right? Between the traditional way of how we were looking at people and now an extremely human-centered organizations after COVID, especially. What is your thought?
Super. Super excited. I don't know, Dr. Sandeep, Dr. Pradyumna, Prasenjit, and Prithvish, you have almost done my part. So I don't know what to say now, but super engaged, super enthused. I mean, I'm super enthused in saying this. See, I'll steal everyone's idea and then I'll throw my light. Actually, if you go by what Prasenjit rightly said, everything revolves around leadership, culture, and structure. At the end, it's all about more than influence. I would use the word called being compassionate leader, because empathy in action is what is required in this current world. If you look at empathy in action. Next, let me redefine the word called VUCA. It's not volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. We need leaders who can only do 4 things: make other people or the teams valued, understood, cared, and acknowledged. That's what world needs. If you're saying you're a compassionate leader on the ground, we need leaders who can demonstrate VUCA. Now let's again get into a microscopic level. What are the influences of the so-called work or the so-called environment or an organization? It boils down to 3 W's: the work environment, and the work culture. And if you go back from LCS, leadership, culture, and structure, and the 3 W's, everything is revolving around how do you make your so-called people who are coming in, working for you, feel valued, understood, cared, and acknowledged. Only I feel it's only about, for me at least, I could only think of 3 things, okay? Most important thing is the technology. We say about collaborative technology. Let's not make it AI. Let's call it as augmented intelligence. Because we need people who should still think. You cannot give everything to the systems. Whatever we are seeing today, it's because someone has imagined, someone had been very curious, and someone was really empathetic. ICE, empathy, imagination, and curiosity. Next, the most important thing is the so-called learning itself has changed. If you happen to see, the whole learning system should be something which should make someone feel aware, the reflection piece. As long you can think, as long you can become aware, as long you can reflect, learning happens. Because the learning systems are, because rightly said by Dr. Sandeep, I forgot, Pradyumna sir was rightly saying about the mentoring. World needs sponsors. World needs people to really transform. So we can only make someone reflect. No more teaching, no more training. It's the world needs people who can think, who can make others think. And last but not the least, we have been speaking about psychological safety, but let's move from that to psychological flexibility. Safety is there. The world, you can create a team where people can speak, but are you really putting something called flexibility on the ground? We want people to, I always ask this question to a lot of my young, great minds or leaders. We are agile, we are flexible, we are adaptable, but are we adoptable? That's a question which I want everyone to reflect. So these are few reflections which I stole from my other leaders in the panel. Thank you.
Thanks, Arvind. It was pretty short, but you covered a lot of points. But
I stole from my leaders
again because what? Yeah, no, absolutely beautiful points. Can you repeat that VUCA once again?
Yeah.
I carried
valued,
something called valued, understood, cared,
and acknowledged. Because at the end, the question is, why should I work for you? Why should I work for my leader? Or why should I work for my manager? Because the generation is moving towards that, because instant gratification, instant feedback. So if we can really practice VUCA, I think the work environment and the work culture would be very conducive for the young minds to come out with great imagination. And imagination is going to be competitive advantage in the world of machines. Thank you.
Great. I like that, Arvind. Beat VUCA with VUCA.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, I just told from my leaders. Thank you for that.
No, beautiful. One more thing you mentioned is about, you brought another dimension of WWW in that, 3 Ws. Right. So one was work environment, one was work culture. What was
and another is
one?
work, the work.
The work itself.
Yeah, work itself needs to be not satisfying. Let's remove that word called satisfying. Work itself should be challenging, because you're because you've been saying artificial intelligence is going to create job, it's going to make you an enabler. So the question to all
Right.
my leaders is, how can you really redefine the so-called work? Inside that work, you have the task, activities, duties, everything. How can you really make that so challenging so that people feel their imagination is at work? That's what world needs.
Got it. Very profound. And then I liked another point you said, which is a pivot from psychological safety to psychological flexibility.
That's right.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
A little bit more on that. I
Yes.
will not let you go because you finished so soon and you said such a powerful thing. I just want to double click on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I made it short because all my leaders, great panelists, spoke more about this. So I just happened to steal their ideas. So
No,
yeah.
you did not steal at all. You brought some fresh dimensions as well. Please go ahead about flexibility. I understand okay, one more thing I liked. Adaptable to adoptable.
Yeah, adaptable to adaptability. Yes.
Adaptable. Yes.
So psychological safety.
About the psychological flexibility. Talk about that.
Yeah. So safety is where you give all this environment, right? Wherein you say you can speak, you can challenge, you can question, you can learn, you can listen. All those aspects around the psychological so-called safety. But the most important thing is, are your structures or your so-called boundaries, which rightly said by Prosenjit sir, I mean, what he was saying is basically the structures and the culture. Is it really giving that flexibility for someone to really challenge? Most of us, we say you can do it, but are we giving that provision, or are you again setting boundaries is the question. So in flexibility, we put the so-called psychological safety at work. That's most important, because because at the end, your culture, you have subcultures and minutest of cultures. Because is the culture really becoming a good intervention, or is it really becoming a binding intervention? That's a question we should be thinking of. Because flexibility, we speak a lot, but are we really flexible in terms of doing things is a question. It's a mindset.
Yeah, great points.
Thank you.
Yeah, very powerful. It's a mindset of creating a flexible place where people feel more empowered and feel belonging. So great points. All those points that I double clicked, really opened up some new thoughts. And of course, one of the way to really look at is to make our team well informed. I think in each one of our conversation, Dr. Pradimna, Prosenjit, and now you also said the same thing. I think one of the things is coming consistently as a pattern that we can see is about creating influence and therefore letting people know that, listen, you also have a role to play. Each one of us have a role to play in understanding and becoming skillful in employee well-being. So that came out really well. So if that be the case, Prasenjit, if you could take that question, I want to go to you and draw your thoughts, in terms of how can HR leaders embed upskilling, reskilling, and career mobility, which is as a core element of employee well-being. What is your thought?
I think today what I have seen that one is that organization continuously create capability planning and capacity planning, right? That goes hand in hand, because when you create capability, one thing has been observed that if you create a lot of capability but you don't have a capacity to place, that also create burnouts. Okay, so it has to be well balanced, that the capabilities has to be pulling into the put it in the right capacity, so that the right talent goes to the right angle. And especially I've seen in large organizations, right? A lot of effective people, some ineffective, the mapping did happen, and even the mapping happened, the learning and development is all on the books. So I think that is one thing which organization are struggling and doing a lot of activities there, what I've seen. Another thing is that internal mobility, when you say internal mobility ecosystem, one important part is that it has to be transparent. So we talk about trust and transparency. We have various, high level, great place to work. All of them, they have the trust index certifications, all of that. But when it comes to trust and transparency, which is like a trust business excellence model kind of that level, right? That has to be synced to the person who is sitting in the last mile of the operations. Okay. And transparency should reach there. Okay. So when you get your population involved in your decision, and transparency flow to the last level, people get belonging. I think Arvind also touched about, all of you touched about, Pradyumna sir touched about. Belongingness is very important. So when you create a mobility system of upskilling, reskilling, career mobility, while you create a learning ecosystem, you have your capacity and competencies, and you ensure psychological safety, security. You do hundreds of studies looking at Deloitte or Gallup. What is most important while you do that, trust and transparency will be a top role. Again, I will come back to the role of the leaders, right? The role of the leaders are very, very crucial. Decision makers, right? Because the baton is on them, the kind of decision that they take, right? The more open they are, the more adaptable they are. Arvind touched about beautiful points, right? The more adaptable they are, flexible they are, compassionate, resilience. These are not just mere words, Prithvish. This is something which is, people have to be passionate as well as compassionate equally. Okay. Just bringing passion won't happen. You have to care for your employees. And this has been long conversations, right? In various of the forums. But compassion, I mean, I'll tell you, there are many organizations who are not having kind of policies, or they go for awards, and these are family companies. You will see people are sticking to them for 15, 20 years. Why they are sticking? Because the chairman creates an ecosystem. People are belongs to the chairman. They belong to the stories, right? Now you can always debate on that. But the fact is that that's a belief the organization follow, and people are doing it and they are thriving towards it. So I would say it is not just about policies and practices, it is also transparency and truthfulness, honesty in the ecosystem. That actually create, and when you have transparency and trust in the system, you can always play around with how do you reskill, how do you develop someone, what is the next stage, you will have your plans in place. Because then what will happen, you would not have people who are sitting at one area and then not moving the ladder, because the transparency pushes everyone to share their vision and people are aligned to it, and not just the CXO team. Okay. So this is something which is very important. I personally don't see you have any platform or agencies that can come up with a program and develop that. This is an internal belief system. Organization has to define it. Leaders has to define it, and there are struggles in it, and they have to come out of the struggle. This is the psychological part of it. When it comes to well-structured ecosystem, you can have competency and capacity and capability. I can still push it to up the ladder, which is in sync to your foundation. So there are two angles to it. I thought I'll brought it to your point. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no, great points. Great points. Before I summarize the point that you mentioned, I'd like to double click on a little more on the skilling part. See, one of the important aspects is about any employee today wants well-being. They need to feel that they are able to perform the role. They're able to do the job, right? See, if we were to suggest skilling and upskilling that should address this career mobility, I know you talked about competence and capability building. What would it be for you if you were to really, suggest that these are some of the programs, or these are something that I want to do as a, CHR, if you could highlight that.
Yeah. So we did a lot of programs in our early organization, but few of the programs that we did, we look at generational programs. So today's workforce, we've been working with Gen Zs. The mindset of Gen Zs, I'll tell you, I'm raising a Gen Alpha, so I can relate to it. Okay. Anyways, coming on the point, the Gen Zs think very differently. They need flexibility. They need workplace ecosystem. They need empowered facilities. The policies and practices has to be very lean, very where they can contribute to the system. Their voices are to be voiced out, right? It's not just one town hall, okay, that you say something, right? Loyalty is no more a loyalty. It is about what's in it for me, and what value I'm driving. I'm getting the double value. This is the generation. You have to live with it. So what we did is that we have certain curated various programs that involves generational workplace. One of the program that I would like to point out is that one pointing out that we did is that we in my earlier stint, there are family members, stakeholders who were as a part of board, and they have their generations, right? So what we did is that the generational guys who are young generation, and there are youngsters, we had curated program where the family companies, fourth, fifth generation were also part of the training. And then we have people who are a part of the training. There are programs there where all these youngsters named, after various programs, named youngsters or people who we have identified have a visible leadership game where budding up leaders, where are the seat of the CEO table for 1 day of a CEO, 2 days of CEO. The organization is a very common program. We do it. And that way they get to know how organization works, what are the various decisions that a senior person has to take or a chair has to take. Same way, we have various management people who are transforming on shifting to various role, right? Grooming, interdepartmental programs where interdepartmental transparency remain, right? And third, what we did is that we do extensive experience learning. So we take our, young workforce to old workforce, all the workforces, generations to various progressive companies. What are the practices that they follow? Okay. That actually create a soft demand that if they are following, why we are not following? Okay. We used to work with a lot of clients, and one of the justification that comes out, okay, client, parent company don't want to, because we were a GCC. Okay. And in GCC, you have to follow what parents want to follow. But what has happened, that helps us to create a debate, that helps us to look at what best practices other organizations are following and how do we evolve to that. I think these three things I can talk about in my career, what I have seen and what works well. And there are a lot of true and fro happen, a lot of interventions and thoughts and brainstorm happen. How do you make it better? Okay. Um, if I have to summarize, which is cross-functional, so which is cross-generational, people do cross-functional. I would say cross-generational. So someone who is young, sitting a CHRO chair, what is a CHRO? What does he do, right? And a CHRO working with a marketing department to understand what is marketing doing. So all of that happens. In terms of family company, there are generational change that we did. So young directors working with CXOs of the company, so do trainees. They've been given teams where young led workforce, where a young person who is maybe at 25, 23 years or 25, 26 years of, and leading team members who are at 50s. So there is always cross vertical generational learning. So it's all learning, right? Then another is that experience sessions. So we take them to, in my last company, we identify people. We took them to Mahindra's experience learning centers. We took them to ISRO, right? So what is ISRO doing? So what has happened, these programs actually helped people to know the broader scope and helps building their competent capabilities, also learning the other part of the story. So this also helps us creating, an ecosystem. Challenges are there, but it resolved a lot in this. Yeah.
Yep. Beautiful point. Great. So I think great reports, Prashanjit. Thanks for sharing, very important aspect. One came through as a right leadership influence, which is what you brought out. Very, very important that one needs to have the capability building, the capability planning, capacity planning should go alongside capability planning. So therefore, capacity information needs to be there. Transparency leads to belonging. That came out as one strong point that you mentioned. You also mentioned what does you elaborated a little more on what Arvind said actually, which is a compassionate leader. You mentioned that compassion would be about resilience, about being adaptable, all of that put together, which is great. And then you give an anecdote of your example of multi-generational, programs that you do to make them feel belonging. Yeah, so great points that you brought out. One experience that I want to share also alongside this is that if there is a well-being issue, then that well-being, I've worked in organizations where they pick up what are the stress points, which means that if an employee is staying for 14 hours a day or 12 hours a day, what is the root cause of that employee staying that long? What is the issue? Is it a shift Is it a capacity? Is it a, what is that? And then the L&D team strategizing and putting together, discussing with the operation manager to figure out, okay, if it is productivity issue, then we will fix productivity training. If it is leadership not holding the person unnecessarily on the floor, and even if the shift is ended, then that is another sort of training. So different types of training, goes on for different
Yeah.
districts. So great points, but really love the insights that you brought. With that, Arvind, let me go to you.
Sure.
Since you talked about, a lot more in terms of compassionate leader and somebody needs to do. So equally, employees also have to own. Each and every employee also has to own their part in ensuring that they are, well balanced, their well-being. So how can early career professionals, somebody who's entering the workforce, advocate for their own well-being, so that they set a, very healthy boundary without the fear of getting nabbed by anybody. Yeah.
Super.
Over to you.
So with your permission, I'll just revisit this question once again from something called, what are we shaped by? We all are being shaped by 6 E's of life. 6 E's: education, expertise, experience, exposure, your so-called ecosystem, which I again copied from Prasenjit, and the most important called energy, right? If you really revisit this question, the answer is there. Now, the most important thing, I'll just put it like in something I couldn't resist, which Prasenjit was saying, most of the times we ourselves we have been talking a lot about mindfulness, but are we really doing mindfulness for ourselves? That means if mindfulness is there, we are setting the boundaries in terms of professional and personal life. Number 1. Number 2, in terms of 3 C's, which again I copied: communication, collaboration, and compassion. And for me, communication is about ROT: respect, openness, and trust, which I think Prasenjit was also emphasizing, because communication is not just a communication on the ground. You have to also talk to yourself, because right now you've been only talking to systems. When you have to talk to yourself, then you understand what kind of respect, openness, and trust. And that's when the power of resilience also happens. Right? So that's about communication, self-awareness, the boundary setting aspect, and the communication. And the most important is in terms of GOP. We have been speaking about it, but let's really try to do it. In the world of resilience, GOP really matters. Growth mindset, opportunity mindset, and the most important, promotion mindset. Because as you rightly said, every day we are only hearing a lot of news. Growth mindset is when it's not about only saying that, okay, whenever I see any opportunity, only I'll do it. I always tell all my young emerging leaders, any type of helping someone, that is where you start growing yourself. You need not look for an opportunity. Like, I need an opportunity to grow. I need an opportunity to really expand my options. I really need an opportunity to promote myself. No, anytime, anywhere, if you can help someone, either through your words, action, and thoughts, you grow. And that's the mindset which is required at this point of time when you look at the whole scheme of things. And last but not the least, always understand we are humans. We are not systems. We count our own set of pluses and minuses. And that is where, from Socrates to big leaders, have been speaking about self-awareness, the mindfulness, and have the self-compassion also. Sometimes pat on your back is also important. I think once you start doing this, your true leadership would come into picture, and that's what world needs. You look at any kind of leaders, they have always exhibited self-awareness, the power of communication, collaboration, and compassion, setting boundaries, and always applying GOP, growth mindset, opportunity mindset, and promotion mindset, always on the ground, because they know at the end, this is what the reality is, because we all are humans. Thank you.
Great point.
Yeah, go ahead. I just want to say to Arvind that he is 3E. He's excellent.
6E, sir. 6E, sir.
I'm saying you are 3E. You are excellent. You are exceptional. You are extraordinary. So loving word.
Humbled and honored. Humbled and honored, sir. Really humbled and honored. I'll steal these words from you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, now let me tell you another thing, Arvind.
Yes,
I am imagining how your workplace would look like. What kind of posters will your workplace have, and your house also, what kind of posters will it have? It will have all abbreviation.
Absolutely,
okay.
sir.
6C, 3C, GOP. You keep on coming up with these things.
No, because my leaders, I stole it everything from Prasenjit sir and Pradyuman sir and others sir also, because they were speaking it. I just have to note it. So that's it, sir. All thanks to them.
No, beautiful.
Humbled and honored.
Beautiful. And 6C, every time I fly Indigo now, I know that 6C also means something else. It's not 6C as in 6 as a flight number,
Thank you
right?
very much, sir. Yes.
So yeah, so one more time with the 6C, once again, exclusive, I think you said.
We all have been shared by education, expertise, experience, exposure, ecosystem, and the so-called energy.
Achha, good. So all of us now know what is this. You have taken a masterclass. You can take a masterclass later on. So great, Arvind. I think great points. I think what came out as a theme from your conversation is about self-awareness. It came out as a fact that, all of these goes in hand to make it happen.
Yes.
You tried to make it simplistic by putting this abbreviation, but it's true that all of these that you said has correlation.
Now, going back to the
helps us-
three W's also, when you say work environment, and then work culture, it's an embedded. It's as you rightly said, a thin fabric. You cannot put a line, but then this is what this separates the great from good, which I think Prasenjit was also saying. Good is the enemy of great. So I think you cannot say that this should be something which has to be there in your walls, but this is something which has to be exhibited in terms of your leadership and culture. That's what people start believing it, and that's when you can really make the mindset shift. Otherwise it doesn't happen. You've got to play role modeling on the ground.
Correct. Very true. Couldn't agree more on that. Thank you. So great. Dr. Pradimna, I think there's one last question that I want to quickly go to you. And this is related to, every individual, again, just extending to what Arvind has mentioned in terms of, individual's role in well-being. I'd like to ask you about leadership's role in that context, in terms of, how does individual co-create a well-being culture with their teams and managers, even in traditional workplaces? What has been your experience?
See, I think I always say that culture is never built through policies alone. Alone word is there. We need policies to build culture, but it cannot build by policies alone. So it's rather, I will say it is co-created every day through your words, your habits, your small signals of respect which you give in the organization. How you respect people, how you respect the entire the framework, and also some very intentional actions. You need to be very thoughtful in saying that, yes, I will do small but consistent efforts. I think that brings the cultural shift. So it starts from respecting working hours. Why not?
Yes, sir.
I have seen leaders talking about 7 to 2 hours, many hours, but you should respect working hours. And definitely, while respecting working hours, you should also expect that what is your expectation, that what is the output you require in 8 hours. That is fine. But yes, we need to respect working hours. Second is, as a leader or as an individual in the organization, you should talk about those self-care, psychological safety. This should be something which should come as a leader. You should talk about them. You need to create those micro moments of care in the team. When I say that when you start a meeting, can it be how everyone is doing today? Can it be your first word coming out? People will feel that. It will become slowly a pattern of how you behave at workplace. So you celebrate small wins. That becomes important. Each and every small win has to be celebrated. Appreciate efforts, not outcomes. That I always say that yes, outcomes are important. You need to. Efforts are also important. Outcome is important for sure. You can't ignore outcomes. But yes, whether you can appreciate efforts of people, and definitely when well-being is being discussed, there is a stigma is created when somebody speaks about stress, somebody speaks about mental illness or not well-being. If they talk about it, people see them that they are not. So whether we can create that environment where it is accepted that this is something which is important, need to be talked, where we need to come as team to support them. I think when we say connect well-being with the team goal, that becomes important, whether we are able to create that. Now, important when you talk about leadership traits, I think to build trust and at work more different at workplace, I think transparency comes first. I will say that communicating openly about the goals, discussing the challenges, this becomes important. You as a leader or as a team member, we need to start talking transparently on what we are expected as an individual, what is expected from us. Second is understanding employees, their personal I will say their aspiration, capturing their aspiration becomes important. As a HR leader, I always talk to my team that be at workplace, be close to employees, understand their aspiration, capture their aspiration, talk to them. But yes, when it comes of owning outcomes, taking responsibility, these are the small things which create much difference at workplace. Somebody, as a leader, if I take responsibility of my failures too, that becomes important. Giving teams the authority to work, that empowerment, I think, instead of micromanaging, that is the most important thing. Well-being, I think the most thing which makes people unsettled or dissatisfied is that you micromanage them, you don't empower them. I think there where they don't feel part of that bigger picture. And yes, I think as I always, again, I'm saying, ask a question to yourself. As a leader, are you comfortable if your best assumption is being challenged by your team members? Try to do that. Second is if you are for all employees, not for leaders, that are you happy? Are you celebrating others' happiness, others' success? It's not so easy. If you people, students, those who are joined, they might have seen the picture movie Three Idiots, where the two of them passed, but when they saw that their colleague has got on the top of the list, they became dissatisfied. So this is something where it has to be talked. It has to be discussed amongst team. Otherwise, we are humans. We compare ourselves with each other. So whether we can bring that environment where people support each other, that is where well-being will come. It is not by well-being is not driven by organization. It is driven by the people, those who are working together. So I think these are the small points. But yes, organizations need to take this seriously. Employee well-being, mental wellness. I think a lot is being talked about mental wellness now, and it's also because the way we are moving in a competitive world, the way the work pressures are, that will remain, that will not go for sure. But how we can create an environment? I always give an example that when my daughter was in school, while I used to say, school mat jaiye, don't go to school. She started crying because she was loving being at school. Can we create that environment where employees think of coming to office with an excitement, with a commitment that yes, he is coming and he will deliver? Thank you.
Great points. Great points. I think again, you did mention about a very important point, that mutual respect. Sometimes that can be a fundamental driver of well-being. So whenever you're making a policy, follow the culture instead of the policy. Forget about the policy, which of course we need, but culture is first. And culture is never built by policy. It is built by human connectedness. So I love that part, very profound. There are other things also you said, but I picked that one as a important one. Okay, great. Now that we have come to the end of this session, where we picked up 6 different dimensions of our conversation, I think each one of you mentioned a lot of points, and there are very profound and important elements which we brought or knitted together as a team. I think we talked about, as a group, we talked about, where Dr. Pradyumna, you mentioned about role modeling, you talked about tracking engagement, action orientation, and then we moved to Prashanjit. You talked about, right leadership influence as a key leader. Theory to practice, again, that came out as an important aspect. Then again, we went to Arvind. You mentioned a lot of VUCA and a lot other abbreviations altogether, but VUCA has a new meaning and 6C has a new meaning in my life now. And I'm sure with leader listeners on the call, they have a new meaning now, so which is great. It's very strong. And I like that point, beat VUCA with VUCA, which is great. Okay. And Prashanjit, then we went to you emphasized very categorically capacity planning alongside, capability building needs to happen. What's the point of creating too much of capability, but there's no, capacity to fulfill? So that can create a lot of, disharmony. You talked about transparency leads to belongingness. The more we do, transparency, that is good. You also redefined compassion to say, listen, compassion is also about resilience, adaptability, and a couple of other things. Then we moved to Arvind back again, where he mentioned about GOP, growth mindset, opportunity mindset, promotion mindset, which is super. I again like that anecdote and very powerful ones. He also emphasized on not just humans. So we are all humans, basically, we're not systems. So please look at each and every policy and anything that structurally we create from a human-centered angle. Finally, we went to Dr. Pradyumna, who mentioned another important aspect, that Forget about micromanagement. If you want a real, good well-being in your company, in your organizations, look at empowerment instead. So that came out as another powerful one. So good, great. I think we've covered a variety of topics, and so happy that we could draw out so much information together as a group, as a team. We did that, and now we are open to questions. But before I go there, want to thank each one of you for sharing so much of insights, deep insights. It was truly a wonderful experience hearing each one of you, right? It was a lot of pleasure in doing so. Yeah, so anybody from the team here, organizing team, we are open to questions now.
Okay, so yeah, thank you so much, sir, for being a part of the webinar. It was like the conversation that everyone had. I'm just so much inspired right now. The talk, the wording, I've just noted everything. Arvind sir, it was amazing. Prosenjit sir, Pradyumna sir, amazing.
I think
So
the
like,
questions, Arvind, you have already answered many questions on chat.
yes.
Yes, sir.
Arvind sir has already answered the questions, so I believe like we can move for the closing remark, I guess.
Sure.
Ah.
But I should also, on behalf of all
Yes,
other
yes, yes.
panelists, really need to thank.
Lokesh, we have to take other panelists' views on the questions. So,
Absolutely,
Lokesh,
absolutely.
you can ask the question so that Prithvish sir can and other panelists can also put up their views into this point, the point where the
Absolutely,
question.
absolutely.
I
Yes,
think
yes.
Prithvish, you should take those questions because whatever questions are being asked, we have covered in our what we talk. But yes, we will respond if something is being asked. Please take.
Yeah, I'll try.
Right.
You put the risk on my shoulder now,
Please.
so let's try. Yeah. Okay, so having
Yes.
transparent communication, not setting boundaries, not creating supportive, caring work environment. So, okay, so Arvind is already responding to each and every one. Wow, Arvind,
No, no.
super. Question from Vaishali. How can organizations balance productivity demands with genuine well-being initiatives without one compromising the other? Anybody wants to take that? That's a question from Vaishali. All right, let me just, Vaishali, this is my view, and maybe others can also step in. So, a very, very important point, a question you asked, how do we balance productivity demands and genuine well-being? I think before you do anything like that, where you need to compare productivity and well-being, first of all, we understand that productivity estimation has to be correct. Dr. Pradyumna talked about practical aspect of setting a goal, not being overambitious, keeping compassion in mind while you're setting the goal. So that becomes an important aspect. Your productivity can only happen if how is productivity measured? Whatever goal, have you reached that? Have you clocked that kind of a number or not? Have you produced so many items in that particular hour or not? So, but that goal setting has to be appropriate. That is one, Vishali. So well-being can be shaped when correct goal setting has to happen. That's my take. The second aspect is technology enablement. If you leave too much on that individual, especially, and not do any technical aspect, or not give them automation, not give them anything, and you expect super productivity to come out of an employee, it will never happen. You will always meet with some frustration. So technological enablement as well as ensuring the right set of goal will help you deliver that. So that is from Vaishali addressing your
I think if
question.
I answer Vaishali's question, if you are able to track what are the outcome of your efforts towards well-being, will answer your productivity demand. Because well-being is automatically is what will facilitate better productivity. If we can sell this idea and we can follow this idea that yes, we are putting our efforts on well-being, which will automatically bring productivity. I'm not talking about daily productivity, but when we talk about creativity, innovation at workplace, it's all which comes from a mind which is happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Super. All right. Anybody else? Any other question that you have? Because I see that was the question. Otherwise, Arvind has done a big favor by responding to each one of them. I could see. Um, yeah, that's it. I think that was one question that we could pick up. Anything else?
Just
Maybe
Yes, like we have one
question you can ask. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
we have one question from Kanak Upadhyay. Like in your experience, what are the biggest barriers companies face when trying to improve employees' well-being? If someone can, yes.
Yes, so first one is your intent itself. The leadership intent is the most barrier which comes and plays as a hurdle, because until unless you think about it, you will not invest. Because when you think that it is a cost, you will never able to go forward. It's not a cost; it's an investment. So if you think that whatever we are doing for well-being is an investment, that leaders need to understand. So that intent becomes important, and that is the biggest hurdle. If you are not able to convince your leadership team or the top, even as an organization, we are not able to understand that what exactly well-being is, why we are talking about well-being, that becomes a hurdle. Otherwise, employees are interested definitely once it is because of for them, they always participate. Second is if we are not able to make them participate in what we are doing, if like when I say you do engagement surveys, you do many activities to overcome those uh, opportunity of where we can improve. If you are not involving employees, I think that efforts fades in slowly. So involve them, make them part of the entire journey. That excitement is generated through those actions. So I will again say that leadership intent is most important for me.
Yeah, great point. Just adding on to Dr. Pradyumna, I think one part is leadership, big time, Kanak. The other important aspect is you and me and everybody who's an employee. They have to take ownership of drawing the line. Suppose if I see my reporting manager or anybody giving me a lot of work, which is inhuman in that context, if I keep on taking that work, at some point or the other, I will break down. And that's where you kind of come forward and you put a respectable limit to say, sir, is there an opportunity that we can revisit this tomorrow? Right? So of course, consider everything, and there's a way to talk and speak and communicate. Do all that. So a lot depends on like the leadership. It also depends a lot on you and me and all the other employees. Yeah. So that's it. All right, Lokesh. Which other question?
Sir, I think these are the only questions that we're having in the chat box. I think we are done with the question part. Now, please welcome Mr. Nanish Deshpande, Head Corporate Communications and Events from NextGen Innovate, for our closing remark. Over to you, Nanish, sir.
Thank you, Lokesh. I think there is no need for any of the closing remarks. The experienced panel,
Absolutely.
the experienced and top working leaders speaking itself and taking this discussion to the next level to really understand the importance of the well-being at the workforces and where it is. So I think I would like to, more than a closing remark, I would say I would like to thank all the esteemed speakers who
Absolutely.
actually, understood and who responded us to join this discussion. Thank you, Dr. Pradyumna Pandey, sir. Thank you, Arvind. Thank you, Prosenjit, sir. Thank you, Prithvish, sir. And you are always being a great supporter for this initiative which we are bringing. Arvind, thanks for your time. Thank you for joining. And I think the one thing which I learned here is, your 6 E's and 3 W's is something very much to be looked after. So yes, we have a lot of things to discuss when we meet. And thanks. Pradyumna sir, thank you for joining. Prosenjit sir, thank you for accepting our request and joining the session. Prithvish sir, you are always being a supportive leader, so thanks. And I would like to thank all the important speakers, attendees, delegates who are always being a part of this webinar. This is the third webinar of our series, and this is a monthly webinar series which we will be coming up next month. We are coming up with an interesting topic of DEI. So I would like to, bring that in front of you that next month we'll be speaking more about a DEI part of it. And then I would like as well to listen from all of you that which are the relevant topic in the industry which we can bring further and have a more meaningful conversations, the content based conversations can happen, which help the industries to grow and expand in their businesses. Thank you. Thank you very much once again for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manish.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much
You
for
all.
joining, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Happy
everybody.
Dussehra and happy
We
weekend.
love your
Thank you.
moderation.
Thank you. We should the same.
Love your
Bye
moderation.
bye.
I love your moderation. It was
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Arvind, I will connect with you soon. Bye bye.
Anytime, sir.
Sure.
Thank you. Humbled and honored, sir. Thank you. Good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye, you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.